You don't deserve nice things, Patricia screamed, hurling the carefully wrapped silver box into the kitchen trash. Always trying to show off, always trying to make me look bad. I stood in her pristine kitchen, watching my wedding gift to her and my father disappear under coffee grounds and vegetable peelings. My name is Alexandra, and at 32, I just watched my stepmom trash what could have been the most important gift she ever received. Not that she knew that, of course. Patricia had always been quick to judge, quick to dismiss anything I did as inadequate or attention-seeking. "It's their 10th wedding anniversary," I said calmly, maintaining my composure even as my heart raced. "I thought you might appreciate something meaningful." Patricia's perfectly manicured hands gripped the counter, her red nails stark against the white marble. "Meaningful? You think you know anything about meaning? I've been married to your father for 10 years, raised you since you were 17, and you still act like an outsider trying to buy your way in." I almost laughed at the irony of her words. Raised me. More like tolerated my existence while systematically trying to erase every trace of my mother from our lives. The day after their wedding, she'd removed all the family photos that included Mom. By the end of their honeymoon, she'd redecorated the entire house, erasing any evidence that another woman had ever lived there. "I should go," I said, turning toward the door. "Happy anniversary, Patricia." "That's right, run away. It's what you're good at," she called after me. "Just like your mother." I paused at the door, my hand on the handle. "You know what, Patricia? You're right, I am like my mother, more than you could possibly understand." The drive home gave me time to think about what had just happened. The gift box Patricia had so casually thrown away contained more than just a present. It contained proof of everything she'd been doing behind my father's back for the past decade. The unauthorized loans she'd taken out in his name, the secret credit cards, the systematic draining of his retirement accounts to fund her shopping addiction. I discovered it all 3 months ago when Dad asked me to help him with his taxes. As a financial investigator for one of the largest banks in Boston, spotting irregularities was my job. What I found in his accounts made my blood run cold. Patricia had been slowly bleeding him dry, counting on his trust and distraction to hide her actions. The wedding gift contained every document, every transaction, every piece of evidence needed to expose her fraud. I planned to show it to Dad privately to help him understand what was happening before it was too late. But Patricia's reaction, her instinctive need to destroy anything that came from me, had done my job for me. My phone buzzed with a text from my best friend, Emma. "Did you give them the gift? How did it go?" I typed back. Patricia threw it in the trash, exactly like we predicted. Emma's response was immediate. "Time for Plan B." "Yes," I replied, smiling for the first time that day. "Call Marcus." Marcus, my colleague from the fraud department, had been waiting for my signal. Within an hour, he'd have someone retrieving the gift box from Patricia's trash. Legally, of course, since discarded items were considered abandoned property, the documents inside would be exactly where I'd left them, protected by waterproof packaging. That evening, as I sat in my apartment reviewing copies of all the evidence, I thought about how Patricia had never really seen me. To her, I was just an inconvenient reminder of my father's first marriage, someone to be tolerated and controlled. She had no idea that while she was busy shopping and socializing, I'd built a career specializing in uncovering exactly the kind of financial fraud she'd been committing. My phone rang. It was Dad. "Honey, Patricia told me you stopped by with a gift. Said there was some sort of argument." I could hear the weariness in his voice. How many times had Patricia twisted my words, painted me as the difficult one? "It's fine, Dad. I just wanted to give you something special for your anniversary." "Well, you didn't have to do that. You know, Patricia gets sensitive about these things." Sensitive. That's what he always called it when she lashed out at me. I learned to bite my tongue, to play the dutiful daughter while watching him fall deeper under her spell. But not anymore. "Dad," I said carefully, "there's something we need to discuss. Can you meet me for lunch tomorrow? Just us?" He hesitated, and I could almost hear Patricia's influence in that pause. "I don't know, honey. Patricia was planning a special anniversary lunch. It's important, Dad, really important." Another pause, longer this time. "Okay, noon at Giovanni's?" "Perfect. And Dad, don't tell Patricia, please." After we hung up, I received another text from Marcus. Package retrieved. Everything intact. Want me to start processing the documents? Not yet, I replied. Let's wait until after lunch tomorrow. I spent the rest of the evening preparing what I would say to Dad, how I would help him understand the magnitude of Patricia's deception without breaking his heart completely. The evidence was clear, but this wasn't just about numbers and bank statements. This was about trust, betrayal, and the careful web of lies Patricia had woven around our family. As I got ready for bed, my phone buzzed one last time. It was Patricia. I know what you're trying to do. It won't work. Your father loves me, not your precious memory of your mother. I stared at the message, feeling an odd sense of calm. Patricia still thought this was about competing for Dad's attention, about living in my mother's shadow. She had no idea what was really coming. Good night, Patricia, I typed back. Sleep well. Tomorrow would change everything. But for tonight, I let Patricia believe she'd won. Let her think she'd successfully destroyed another attempt to connect with my father. The truth would come soon enough, and when it did, she'd realize that throwing away my gift was the biggest mistake she ever made. The next morning, I arrived at Giovanni's early, choosing a quiet corner booth where we could talk privately. I had my laptop ready, containing digital copies of every document Patricia had unknowingly thrown away. As I waited, I thought about how many times I'd sat across from Dad at this same restaurant, keeping silent about Patricia's behavior for the sake of his happiness. Dad arrived exactly at noon, looking tired but managing a smile. Hey, princess, you look serious. Sit down, Dad, I said gently. We need to talk. He slid into the booth, his usual confident demeanor slightly shaken. Patricia was upset when I told her I was meeting you. Said you were trying to cause trouble. When have I ever tried to cause trouble, Dad? I asked, opening my laptop. Even when she removed Mom's photos, even when she blocked Aunt Sarah from visiting because she reminded her too much of your past. Did I say anything? He shifted uncomfortably. That's different. Patricia just needs to feel secure in our relationship. Secure enough to take out 3 credit cards in your name. I turned the laptop toward him, showing him the first statement. Secure enough to drain your retirement account to pay for her shopping sprees. The color drained from his face as he stared at the screen. What are you talking about? One by one, I showed him the evidence. Credit card statements, loan documents, transfer records. Each one bore his forged signature, each one carefully hidden from his monthly statements through Patricia's manipulation of their online accounts. This can't be right, he stammered, but I could see the recognition in his eyes. The unexplained bills, the evasive answers about their finances, the constant pressure to work more hours, it all suddenly made sense. There's more, I said softly, pulling up the most damaging evidence. She's been transferring money from your business account into her personal savings. Over $500,000 in the past 3 years. Dad's hands trembled as he reached for his water glass. How did you find all this? It's my job, Dad. I investigate financial fraud for a living. Remember when you asked me to help with your taxes? That was just the beginning. The more I looked, the more I found. He sat back, looking suddenly older than his 58 years. The gift you brought yesterday contained hard copies of everything I'm showing you now. Patricia threw it away before you could see it. Does she know? He asked, his voice barely a whisper. Not yet, but she will soon. Marcus, my colleague from work, retrieved the documents from the trash. They're being processed as we speak. Dad buried his face in his hands, and for a moment I saw him not as the successful businessman Patricia had manipulated, but as the loving father who used to read me bedtime stories and teach me about investments. I've been such a fool, he said finally, looking up at me. All these years I thought she was protecting our family. Instead she was stealing from it. I finished gently. Dad, this isn't your fault. She's very good at what she does. But it needs to stop. Just then, his phone buzzed. Patricia's face lit up the screen. He stared at it for a moment before declining the call. What do we do now? He asked, sounding more vulnerable than I'd ever heard him. First, we freeze all your accounts. Then we contact the police. What she's done isn't just morally wrong, it's criminal. The forgeries alone. Criminal charges, but she's my wife. A wife who's stolen nearly everything you've worked for, I reminded him. Dad, if we don't stop this now, you'll lose everything. Your savings, your business, your retirement, it'll all be gone. His phone buzzed again. This time, it was a text from Patricia. Where are you? Why aren't you answering? What has she been telling you? Dad showed me the message, his hand shaking slightly. She knows something's wrong. Of course she does, I said. She's always been afraid this day would come. That's why she tried so hard to keep us apart, to make you doubt me. She knew I might figure it out. He typed out a quick response. Having lunch with Alexandra. We'll talk later. Almost immediately, Patricia replied, Don't listen to her lies. She's always been jealous of our happiness. I'm coming there right now. I looked at Dad, seeing the conflict in his eyes. It's your choice, I said softly. We can pack up and leave before she arrives, or we can stay and face this together. But either way, the fraud investigation is happening. I've already submitted the evidence to my department. He straightened his shoulders, and I saw a glimpse of the strong man I remembered from my childhood. We stay, he said firmly. I need to hear her try to explain this. I reached across the table and squeezed his hand, feeling closer to him than I had in years. I'm right here, Dad. We'll handle this together. We sat in silence for the next few minutes, both watching the restaurant entrance, waiting for the storm that was about to break. I could see Dad processing everything, his worldview shifting as he finally understood the true nature of his perfect wife. The bell above the door chimed and Patricia burst in, her face flushed with anger. As she spotted us in the corner booth, her eyes narrowed, focusing on the laptop screen still displaying her financial crimes. She stopped dead in her tracks, and for the first time since I'd known her, I saw real fear in her eyes. The game was over. The truth was out, and Patricia was about to learn that some things, once thrown away, come back with devastating consequences. Patricia stood frozen for a moment, her perfectly composed facade cracking as she stared at the laptop screen. Then, like flipping a switch, her expression transformed into one of wounded innocence. Robert, darling, she said, sliding into the booth next to my father. Whatever Alexandra's shown you, it's not what you think. Dad didn't move away from her, but he didn't lean into her familiar touch either. Really? He said quietly. Because what I think is that you've been stealing from me for years. Forging my signature. Draining my accounts. That's ridiculous. Patricia's laugh was brittle. Alexandra has always tried to come between us. She's manipulating those documents, using her job to create lies about me. I kept my voice calm, professional. The evidence has already been submitted to the fraud department. It's not just my word, Patricia. It's bank records, credit card statements, loan documents, all bearing Dad's forged signature. Your signature. Robert, she turned to my father, eyes glistening with practiced tears. You can't believe this. After everything we've built together, everything I've done for this family. Everything you've done. I interrupted, pulling up another document. Like using Dad's business account to pay for your secret apartment in Newport? The one you keep under your maiden name. The color drained from Patricia's face. This was something she hadn't expected me to find. Dad's head snapped up, staring at her in shock. An apartment, he whispered. What apartment? It's not. I can explain. Patricia stammered, but her usual smooth confidence was shattered. Let me explain, I said, turning a laptop to show them both. 3 years ago, Patricia started transferring money to a separate account. Small amounts at first, then larger sums as she got bolder. She used that money to rent an apartment, furnish it, and maintain it. Would you like to see the photos from the real estate listing? Dad's face had turned ashen. Show me. Pulled up the images. A luxurious beachfront property, decorated in Patricia's distinctive style. But it was the last photo that made Dad's hands clench into fists. Patricia, arm in arm, with a man who definitely wasn't my father, standing on the apartment's balcony. His name is James Carlton, I said quietly. He's a golf instructor at the country club. The same club where you've been paying Patricia's monthly membership fees. Patricia's composure finally broke. You had no right to investigate me, she shrieked, drawing stares from nearby diners. This is all your fault. If you hadn't been so nosy, so determined to ruin everything. If I hadn't discovered your fraud, you mean? I met her gaze steadily. How much longer did you think you could keep this up? Another year. 2. Until Dad's accounts were completely empty. I want a divorce. Dad's voice was quiet but firm. Patricia froze mid-tirade, turning to stare at him. And I'm pressing charges. You can't be serious, she whispered. Robert, please. Think about what you're saying. Think about the scandal. The scandal is what you've done to this family, he replied. The money, the lies, the other man. It's over, Patricia. As if on cue, two men in suits entered the restaurant, heading straight for our table. I recognized Marcus among them. Mrs. Davidson. The other man said formally, I'm Detective Harris. We need you to come with us to answer some questions about multiple instances of financial fraud and identity theft. Patricia's face contorted with rage. She turned to me, pointing a manicured finger. You planned this. You've always hated me, always tried to come between us. Just like your mother. I stood up, gathering my laptop. No, Patricia, you did this to yourself. The gift you threw away yesterday, it was your last chance to come clean, to tell Dad the truth yourself. But you couldn't even let him see it. As the detective led Patricia away, I heard her asking for her lawyer. Dad sat quietly, staring at his hands. I'm sorry, Dad, I said softly. I know this isn't easy. He looked up at me, eyes glistening. Don't apologize. You saved me from losing everything. I wish I'd seen it sooner, seen her for who she really was. She was very good at hiding her true nature, I said, sitting back down beside him. But she made one crucial mistake. What's that? I smiled, thinking of the silver gift box she'd so casually tossed away. She underestimated me, just like she always did. We sat there for a while longer, father and daughter, beginning the process of rebuilding what Patricia had tried to destroy. Outside, I could see her being placed in a police car, her perfect world crumbling around her. You know what's ironic? Dad said finally, a hint of his old humor returning. If she hadn't thrown away your gift, if she'd just let me see those documents, we might have handled this privately, found a way to resolve it without involving the police. I nodded. But she couldn't help herself. She had to maintain control, had to keep you from seeing anything that might expose her lies. Well, he said, standing up and offering me his arm, she certainly doesn't have control anymore. As we walked out of Giovanni's together, I thought about how sometimes the things we throw away come back to us in unexpected ways. Patricia had thrown away my gift, my trust, and ultimately, her freedom. But in doing so, she'd given me back something precious, my relationship with my father. And that was something I would never let anyone throw away again.